There we go. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I kind of wanted to talk about my Linux from Scratch plans, but no one is here yet. And I don't know how long I'm gonna go for. Which makes this kind of tricky. Oh well, when people come back, they should come back to. They should know what this stream is kind of about. So I have plans on how I want to go about my Linux from Scratch and beyond Linux from Scratch live streams, and I kind of decided that I want to try out Wine and see how it goes. I won't be using my Linux from Scratch as a host system because it does not have MinGW W64 or MinGW W32, nor does it have the ADA or D GCC front ends. So even if I wanted to compile Wine from my Linux from Scratch system as a host system, I couldn't, because in order to compile MinGW W64 ADA front end and the D front end for GCC, you need those in order to do that. So I'm gonna use my Arch system to do that because it has all of that. And I think I found a solution on how to actually compile the ADA and D front ends just fine, and it won't take that much work. The only I might need to retry a few times, and I'll show you my troubleshooting process which involves banging my head on a keyboard in hopes that it'll actually work. But for MinGW W64 and MinGW W32, I don't know how to go through with that quite yet on how to cross-compile for what's going to be my new Linux from Scratch system. But the prerequisites, I guess, truth be told, I really don't need ADA and D compilers on my new Linux from Scratch system. But in order to compile newer versions of Wine, it's necessary. So I'm just gonna have it part of my new Linux from Scratch system and see what happens. But yeah, that's how I kind of want to do that. I'm gonna do basic multilib, but without x32 because it's unnecessary, barely used by any meaningful applications. And Steam as hell doesn't even use it, so I'm not gonna include x32. I'm just gonna use x86 and x86-64, aka i686 and AMD 64. I am still gonna go through with Steam. Nothing has changed there. And yeah, that's everything I really wanted to say. I know I said that I want to do Steam and stuff, all that before, and I might do more stuff. Obviously, I'm gonna go about showing how I go through with Firefox and how I get from 0 to hero. And what I mean is going from a basic system that can compile stuff but can't do much else, up to Xorg, a terminal for it, but also have links. Links is incredibly useful. So you kind of have a web browser in your terminal, then you can have another terminal in which you can copy and paste those commands to that terminal. So that's how I go about it first. Then I go on to Firefox. And that's how I go about it. I don't know if I'm gonna do Vulkan before Firefox, but that might be the case. Just so it's completely out of the way and I don't have to focus on it anymore. That also goes with OpenGL, of course. As for the DRI drivers, I won't be compiling them. I'm going to use an already existing package config, I think it's called, or package conf, whatever, but a PC file that says, hey, this is where those libraries are, but there's going to be no libraries there. Just so I can trick Xorg server into believing there are drivers. Mostly because I'm doing proprietary NVIDIA, which doesn't install DRI drivers. libglvnd also doesn't. Most of those necessary drivers are put in userlib. And Xorg does not know about that. So it's a little bit wonky. Yeah, that's really about it. Nothing more to say regarding Linux from scratch. I am probably going to start on Wednesday. glibc 2.39 is supposed to come out on the 1st of February, which means it should release on Wednesday. It could be later or it could be earlier. But they always try to release glibc on the 1st of either February or August. And recently they haven't been on that day completely. Sometimes they've been earlier, sometimes they've been a little bit later, but only at most by a couple days. So I won't have to wait too long. Hell, it could even release tomorrow if I'm lucky. The main issue with glibc is patches. And from what I know, I can just apply any patch and recompile just fine. And I won't have to relink anything. But those patches, I probably don't need to really worry about them too much. They shouldn't be too critical, but if something is critical, I might recompile LFS again. I don't know. That's why doing it this early is always going to be a big risk. Usually the sweet spot is to wait for just wait a month. Everything will be sorted out. That's why Linux from scratch versions release a month later after glibc, typically, to sort out all those, all that stuff that arises, and everything is mostly fine. There are a few issues, but those aren't pertaining to glibc or GCC usually. It's more or less typos more than anything. But yeah, I don't know how much streams I'm going to do. I know they're all gonna be in the morning now, so around this time is when I really want to do those streams. I don't know how many streams, and I don't know how much content there will be. I recall getting to the point where I shut off my Linux from scratch system as it was at that time. It took about 100 hours, according to me, which sometimes I may not be very reliable, that it took about 100 hours. So, anyway, that's about it. See ya.